We have a yard that's taking in a lot of water from neighboring properties. It ends up in high concentration in the back of this yard, and it's having a hard time finding its way out. We're going to build a fully encapsulated French drain system that's going to take in surface water as well as subsurface water. It's never going to need any maintenance because it's going to be fully encapsulated. We're going to take you through every detail of the process. All right, you guys in Florida that are tired of the heat, well, I got an answer for that. You're looking to cool off. We're still installing French drains here in the north. The soil here is sand, so it's permeable. Yet we have a water problem. We have all this high ground that the water runs off of. The way these subdivisions are typically made, and this is what we see on a regular basis, is a stair step. You have higher lots and it just keeps stepping down. So you end up moving water through your yard from neighboring lots. And it was designed that way, typically when it was developed. The problem is the water doesn't efficiently run around this house like it should. We're going to put in a large French drain system. We're going to catch all this water. We're going to route this water right around this house. Up here it's like a tabletop. It flattens out and the water gets hung up. You can see how the guys went ahead. They did a perimeter drain along the fence on both sides. We also need to get the water off of this patio area. We're going to put in an open French drain right along the edge of the patio here. We're going to grab up all this water and we're going to get it around this house. We have to discharge it underneath this fence out to the front yard. Let me show you something. This is how deep the frost is right now. The guys are breaking through the frost. We're digging through a few inches of frost right now to get this French drain in. These are problems that you will not see in Florida. You can see all the tree roots we got to get through to get this discharge line out. We're breaking through the anchoring roots. This is the only way this water's getting out of here, right here. And that tree is part of the problem, because as that tree has gotten larger in size, it's raised the ground around it. As the tree roots get bigger and bigger, the ground lifts. The water probably used to run right around that shed, make it out to the street, no problem. Here's a bucket, and they would put that sump pump right there in there and run that garden hose out front. Water would sit back here and they couldn't get the water out. We have high ground right with this lot right here. This is high ground. With the lot behind them, same thing. So they have higher ground behind them. They got higher ground next to them. So we're trying to grab all that water that's making its way into this yard. We're grabbing it up. We know that the water is going to want to come in through here. We're going to keep that swaled, have that funneled. Instead of it just flooding out the back of this house, we're going to give that water a path to go. We're going to get it around this house, past that tree, down the side lot, out to a storm drain. Our extra heavy duty 8 slot, it's really stiff in this cold. You can see how the guys got to work to get it unrolled. Usually we lay that in the sun in the summertime, and it's really easy to work with. We're putting 2 4-inch pipes at the bottom of the trench. We want to move a lot of water. We want to be able to catch all the water. Having 2 pipes in the bottom of the trench holds you to a tolerance for a better French drain system. Subscribers always want to know, how do we do connections when we're running 2 pipes at the bottom? Well, we just put one of our end plugs. You don't have to hook both of these up to go into this Y. You have holes in both of these pipes. You can see these really big holes. However high the water is in this pipe, it'll be that high in this pipe. It's all going to drain out through that pipe. The guys went ahead and connected the inside on this one, the outside on that one. These are going to be 2 parallel pipes. They're going to run. We have water coming off the high ground behind the home here, behind this lot. Also up here, this is all graded down to here. There's a swale that's formed right where our French drain is. Back when this was graded, they did a pretty good job actually. You never want to direct the water up and over a retaining wall. The erosion is going to tax that retaining wall. You want to set it up to where this is swaled and sloped, and you want to get the water out and around the retaining wall, not over the retaining wall. A lot of people, they won't take them up high enough, and they'll leave them low, and they'll let the water cascade over them. And then they wonder why their wall's failing. So we're really happy with how things have been done here. All the foundation items are fine. You know, where the lot swales and comes together is fine. We love having a pronounced area to catch all the water in. You run your system in that area, you're going to catch all the water. That's been a problem. The guys are doing a great job making sure they have slope on their discharge line. They set up their laser level and they're taking readings. They're methodically digging through all these tree roots and setting the height. They want the bottom of this trench to be at the perfect depth. If you leave the bottom of your trench too high, it could act as a damming effect and all your hard work could be for nothing. So this is really important. You can see all the tree roots the man had to dig through to get this line in. We have our French drain system in the swale across the back of this yard. It's perfect. We're catching all the water that's coming in from the neighboring lot. We did the same thing along that side lot. The guys have this French drain right in a little swale that runs right along the property line there. Then we have a bigger swale here. We have all this high ground and it's coming right to this swaled area. We're grabbing up all that water. There used to be so much water that would run through this yard, and then it couldn't find its way out around the corner of this home. And you can see why. The men are using the laser level. They're getting the proper depth so that we can drain water out of this yard. As you can see, the water was going to have to go uphill before it could find its way out of this yard. Over time, there was probably a lot of dirt that just settled in this area, and that tree kept raising the ground. You can see all the tree roots. I always talk about how far trees can root. Look at all these tree roots. We're still dealing with tree roots. I tell everybody, big trees are going to root 50 feet into your drain system. You know, we're off that tree 20 feet. We got all kinds of problems. The reason why the men put so much time into the discharge line is because all of your sweat equity, all of your hard work, all of the money spent on good materials is for nothing if you don't get the discharge line right. You can see that the trench is a lot shallower now. That's why the water couldn't find its way out of this yard. That tree raised the ground slowly and silently and without anyone really taking notice. That's what trees do. As the roots go from a fine thread to being as big around as your arm, sometimes your thigh, all that wood in the ground, as that tree grows, lifts the ground, it raises the ground. all the fabric that Cal trimmed. He took the time to cut all that excess fabric off. If you overlap the fabric, it will not drain. You want to just have a couple inches, 2-3 inches of overlap and then pin it. This fabric is non-woven geotextile filter fabric, and it's been double punched. It's full of tiny little needle holes so that the water, the surface water, can drain down into the French drain system. The fabric is your soil filter zone so that your French drain doesn't become contaminated. This is an encapsulated French drain system. This is why our French drains last forever. People that have legacy properties that they're going to hand down to their children, and then their grandchildren are going to end up with that property, and so on. They have us build these drains because they know they're going to stand the test of time. All right, the men just took a measurement, and what they did is they created a benchmark so that they can move their laser level. I can't stress that enough. When you go ahead and move your laser level, set a benchmark. So when building your drain system, you have to think about the trees. We have a large shade tree. Look at the roots you have to deal with. So if you're going to put in a drainage system and you have to go by a tree, know that that's going to be some of the hardest ground you're going to dig. All right, so if you're DIYing this job, a job similar to this job, and you're not equipped to dig through all these tree roots to find your way outside of this yard, to be able to gravity drain it, we did have to go through a really challenging dig to get through all those tree roots. If you were a DIYer, you can put an outdoor sump system right here, grab the water from the downspout, the water from the French drain, run your discharge on that fence, and pump the water out of here. Those are your options. Again, we're equipped to gravity drain it, so we didn't do that. If I was DIYing this job by myself with limited equipment and manpower, without a question, I would be putting an outdoor sump system right here. I would grab up all that water. I discharge my French drain into the system. I discharge the roof runoff right there. And I go ahead and put a discharge line on the fence. I've made a lot of videos showing how to do this. Beautiful day to put in a French drain system, wouldn't you say? Absolutely gorgeous. Cal did a really nice job. He cut all this fabric to size. He didn't overlap it. It's not a heavy overlap. You just want to have, 2-3 inches of overlap and then pull it together. This is going to catch surface water. This is a sandy soil. Dirt's going to go back on top of this French drain. They're going to seed and straw it and grow turf back here. That's a project for next spring. We're aligning the entire system with a double punch non-woven geotextile filter fabric. This has a really good flow rate. Not all fabrics are created equal. This one has been purpose-built for yard drainage. By having the French drains 100% encapsulated, no contaminants can find their way into this French drain system. This French drain is going to last forever. The virgin pipe that we put in our French drain lasts 200 to 500 years. I'm confident that the vein of stone is going to last for eternity. So our non-woven geotextile filter fabric is the key to longevity. The non-woven geotextile filter fabric, the virgin pipe, how are you going to find a way to build a French drain that's going to stand the test of time and last as long as a stone and pipe if you don't encapsulate the system with a really good non-woven geotextile filter fabric? You give the French drain system an expiration date right at the time of installation. All the pipe and stone has been encapsulated, all of it. We have different sizes of fabrics. You choose the fabric that's going to fit the depth that you're digging. We have a 3-inch wide, we have a 5-foot wide, and we have a 6-foot wide. All right, Francisco and Valente are going underneath the fence. They're going to undermine this fence so that we can gravity drain this system. There's a lot of extra work that goes into gravity draining the system. Also put an outdoor sump pump right there, run the discharge down this fence, and then it'll run into the storm drain. There's usually a couple different ways you can drain a backyard. You always try to go for gravity because you don't have to have electricity. You don't have to rely on a pump. If the power goes out or if the pump quits, you end up with standing water in the yard. But if it's something as bad as a flooded basement or a flooded crawl space, you want to have backups. You want to have backup generators. You want to have backup pumps. And of course, if you can just do it through gravity, you don't have to worry about all that stuff. Juan's installing the fabric for the open French drain. All the water that comes off this cement patio is all pitched to this open French drain. We're going to grab up all that water. We're going to discharge that water. So Aaron and Juan, they just connected the open French drain. They're putting a piece of fabric in the trench that connects the open French drain to the main French drain that runs through the backyard. We want to grab up all the water, both from the surface and the subsurface. We want to discharge it around this house out to the front storm drain. We normally lay this pipe in the sun, and then it's pretty compliant. You can hear all the ice in the 8 slot. It's like a maraca. The weakest part of your drain system will be at the connection. You always want to make sure you use good quality couplers. We're using an exterior coupler. Happens to be the thickest and strongest exterior coupler on the market. It's mold injected, so it has even wall thickness throughout, and it's made out of a virgin HDPE. The pipe is really rigid in the cold. Takes a little work to get it to lay flat in the cold. In the summertime, we just lay it in the sun, and it's just so easy to work with. So the guys are running two 4-inch pipes on the bottom. These are 4-inch perforated pipes. People always want to know how to lay the fabric in the trench when you join it to another trench. Don't overthink it. So the men cut this, and then they just went ahead. They're going to trim this here. The discharge is coming along nice. Guys are doing a really good job. We got really nice slope at this point. We finally just start falling right towards the storm drain. A blind person could get that to drain gravity now. People always want to know how to start a French drain. We just put an end plug in so that stone don't fill the end of the pipe. And then we tee it, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Don't overthink it. You always have to get permission from the neighbor when you have to go on their property. This discharge line couldn't be taken to daylight because the grade goes up right here. So the street is higher up. In order for us to take this drain so that it can gravity drain and we empty the entire line, we have to make it all the way to the storm drain. A lot of people will end the drain right here. They think ending the drain right here is good enough. And then the whole system ends up holding water. This whole line will end up holding water. That's what'll happen. If you can get this line all the way to a ditch and it just drops off, it'll empty out. If you can get it to a storm drain like we are, you can completely empty the whole system out. Ideally, that's what you want. It's not always a reality, but you can do it. In a lot of cases, you can do it. All right, so Juan and Cal put 4 pipes in the main trench. We have 4 4-inch perforated pipes in the main trench. Because of our depth, we get more airspace and we get more volume in our system if we have more perforated pipe over the stone. We prefer to put in more perforated pipe when given that option. Do we use more stone or do we use more corrugated pipe that's perforated, has holes in it, and these holes are not just on the top. In a lot of my videos, people say, you put the pipe in upside down. Well, we have holes on the sides, on the top, and on the bottom. 360 degrees. There are holes all the way around this pipe. It takes in water from 360 degrees. You can't beat that. That is the best French drain pipe on the planet right there. It's a purpose-built yard drain pipe. All right, so the men put a leaf filter on because we got a lot of trees around here. Right here you can see all we need to do is tie one in. However high the water is in one pipe, it'll be that high in the other. There's holes in both pipes. So the water is going to travel through this pipe into this pipe and out. This is a 4-pipe system. We're pretty deep here. We could probably actually go 6 pipes deep if we wanted. And in truth, if we ever start to run really low on stone on a project, that's what we'll do. So now that it's done blowing snow, I can run the camera again. Again, we got an open French drain grabbing all the sheet water off the patio. We have this tied into our main French drain. This is all sand. It's really good permeable soil, but during hard rains, there's so much water coming off the high ground that's neighboring. When it's running, it has a hard time soaking into the sand fast enough, and they have to pump it out. They have a little sump pump pit that's a garbage can, and they throw this little pump in there. Well, they're not going to have to do that anymore. This is a giant horizontal dry well for all practical purposes. We're going to leach most of that water away. The discharge line is a lot of work for a reason. If you don't get the discharge line right, the whole system was for nothing. So the men worked really hard to get the slope just right, get through all those tree roots. Did a great job. Now there was a failed 4-inch system in place. The tree took it out. We didn't want to use perforated pipe around the tree because then the tree roots would have just got inside the system, so we went solid. Right here, the perforated pipe ends, right here. So we picked up another couple inches of snow while we were doing this system. Yeah, we're not running short on sunblock, that's for sure. So this is how you build a French drain to take in surface water. We have a sand yard. We're grabbing up all the bulk water at the surface. It's going to run through this sand yard. It's going to be a horizontal dry well, basically. It's really going to reduce the amount of water that actually makes it to the discharge line. So you do not have to tie these together. The men did a really nice job. Look at that, that's beautiful. This is a bed area. So we had to put this back together again, make it as good as when we first came here or better. That's our policy. I think they did a really nice job. We put some new stone in there. We have the discharge line in, have everything graded. We got another wheelbarrow's worth of roots that we got to take out of here. This came out really nice. Guys are doing a really nice job grading this back out. They're creating a light swale. You can see how it's a soft swale. We're trying to catch all the water, the runoff water in our French drain. Just creating a nice soft swale. Direct all the water right to the French drain. The dirt that we're working with is frozen, so the guys are chipping away at it to level out the yard. It's coming out real nice. Beautiful. Open French drain right along the patio. You can see Juan cut all the excess off. Never have a heavy overlap. Only have like 2-3 inches of overlap when you pin and encapsulate your French drain system. The French drain system ends right there. We also grabbed this downspout. Discharge line running right around this tree. It's a solid discharge line, so the tree roots cannot get inside it. Runs all the way down to the storm drain catch basin. Once the frost gets deeper than what it is right now, we'll eventually have to stop working. Given the cold weather in the 10-day forecast, we probably can only work the next 2 days. Then the frost is going to be so deep that it's not going to be something that we could deal with or work with. So when all this snow melts and we have a thaw, and if with that thaw comes some rain, all this melted snow and rain runs into this open French drain. We have a fully encapsulated French drain system. We have it completely wrapped with nonwoven geotextile filter fabric that's been double punched. We then put some drainage stone on top of it here. Gives it a really nice look right off the patio. Then in the backyard here, we created just a little divot, create a little soft swale, not too much, but just enough. And then the guys are putting sand on top. Honestly, it doesn't get any better than this. This French drain is going to work so well. Yeah, the guys did a really nice job. I'm trying to film it before the snow covers it, because if snow, you know, they moved these turf mats and they're already covered in snow. That's how the whole job's been all day. We've been picking up snow throughout the day. You can see, nice soft swale. This is great. We're going to grab the water that comes out of the high ground. Any water that's draining out of that high ground, the French drain will grab it. Even the subsurface water coming out of that high ground. We want to help get all that water around this retaining wall, out from behind this house, around the corner of the house, out to the front yard. This is a beautiful job done by a professional crew. So here you can really see how this goes uphill where the tree's at. So you can see why the French drain has to grab up all the water and discharge it underground to the front yard. Got through all those tree roots. Now if you're a DIYer, you could put a sump pump system in right there, and then you could run a discharge line down the fence, but you got to have power, and then you're going to have to maintain that pump. If we can drain it gravity, we always do. This is definitely one of the hardest working crews out there. I'd put this crew up against any crew out there. Michigan day, Michigan winter, snowstorm, and these guys put in a really nice yard drain. Pretty big system to put in one day. Most crews couldn't get it in a day. These guys took care of business. And it took a while because the roads were icy to get here, and there were a lot of car accidents, as you could imagine, on icy roads, slick roads. And these guys were loaded with equipment, loaded with stone. They worked their way to the job. We finally got started probably about 10:30 because of that bad morning commute. But these guys just killed it. I love this crew. I'm so blessed to have this crew. A crew of men with this much talent this late in my career. I'm a pretty lucky guy. And I'm grateful to have each and every one of those guys. If you found any of this information helpful, give us a thumbs up. It supports the channel. I'm your host, Robert Sherwood, and until the next video.